I published a book recently, probably see the title there, To Bind Us to the Earth. Quote you may recognize from Keats' Endymion, about 15 lines in. The one that starts, "A thing of beauty is a joy forever." And the quote is about a flowery band to bind us to the earth. And that idea of binding us to the earth, I think, is one which is relevant today. So we start with a poem about the earth itself. It's called 23 Degrees, 28 Minutes. If I had been consulted at its birth, I'd never have thought of angling the earth. The tropic lines of Capricorn and Cancer define degrees of tilt and temperature. In winter, crops are resting, cold soil sleeps, while teasing winds will test the turmoiled trees. Webbed feet walk on frozen water, and the snow illuminates green lichen on grey boughs. I'd never have thought of angling the earth if I had been consulted at its birth. For soon the land feels warmth against its flank, awaking it to life and then to work. As Earth's axis inclines it to the rays of sun, the wild rose flaunts its flame-tipped shoots like tapers to light the hedgerow's catkins, which glint on moss grown luminous in lengthening days. If I had been consulted at its birth, I'd never have thought of angling the earth. Earth spins with all our satellites and clutter 300 million miles to bring us summer, when fruiting elders, hops and hazel trees help frame our fields with joy. Sly adders doze immobile in the sun, and humans seek refreshment to relax at season's peak. I'd never have thought of angling the earth if I had been consulted at its birth. 3/4 round Earth's circuit of the sun, the golden season overtakes the green. The pigeons pick their way among the stubble to peck the grain, and we can hear the treble song of robin from the fir tree's fronds, foretelling Christmas and the year's dark end. That's a fairly comforting description of things on Earth. But there are annoyances, mild and serious. One on the mild side is described in this next poem, which is a villanelle. It's called Pesky Flies. A scene of beauty to our eyes of wooded isles and sandy bays is often plagued by pesky flies. I ask myself, can it be wise to travel far so we can gaze on scenes of beauty to our eyes, when from the sun's electric rise, the quickening earth beneath its rays is often plagued by pesky flies? Al fresco meals we may devise to eat in meadows while we laze, mid scenes of beauty to our eyes. But Glyndebourne's feasts in frocks and ties, as well as jeans and t-shirt stays, are often plagued by pesky flies. And sweet remembered lovers' sighs we may forget through time's kind haze. In scenes of beauty to our eyes, we're often plagued by pesky flies. Got it. And it isn't only the animal kingdom that can cause annoyance and difficulty. The next poem is called Apple Tree. The snake-tooth edges of the nettle leaves form the front rank of the invading troops, whose swords are couch grass, a daisy rosette their badge. Their camouflage, the not yet flowering buttercups. This wild array adds to the anarchy of civil strife within the garden's borders, where strong euphorbias have kept exploding to devastate the dainty pinks, whose skeletons lie pale and bleached on the damp, flat mud. The gardener takes stock of his domain. It's new to him, this wilderness. He knows it was a garden once, and he has come to make it one again. Above the tangled feral growth, in late winter dormancy, he sees his starting point, an apple tree, unpruned for years, stands elbowed, bony, bare. With saw and secateurs, he can reform, reshape, and cut out errant growth. Where branches cross, it's summary justice. This one he'll sever, the other one he'll save. To counter anarchy, for the common good, he becomes a dictator, the arbiter of destiny. All the tree desires is to grow and reproduce. The gardener aims to tame its growth and eat its progeny. But harshness brings revolt. Where he cuts now, in spring and early summer, it will call up fierce tall shoots, deploy wide-spreading leaves, demand respect from him. He's heading for a fall, like that of his first ancestors, the man himself a gardener, who scrumped in Eden's orchard and took in the flesh of anarchy and tyranny in 2 crisp bites. We move now from our own country to Tanzania, the Serengeti, where there's more trouble from animals, but not very serious. It's called monkey mayhem. High from a tall acacia tree in Serengeti's immensity, look, a rain of rich tea biscuits falling on a shaded grassy parking space, a safe safari stopping place from elephant's charge or lion's mauling. But vervet monkeys own this site and consider it to be their right to pick and nick the picnic hamper's contents. A biscuit packet from a car is carried in 2 seconds far from human reach for monkey sustenance. A dozen paws reach out from branches, fancying their simian chances at catching cookies from the treetop shower. The blue and yellow empty wrapping floats down towards the man caught napping when he failed to guard his snack from monkey power. Just to one side is built a square blockwork, window-barred affair, and those who enter gain experience of looking out through bars, exhibits to curious staring, which inhibits the purpose of a visit to the gents. Now we come to a more serious poem about life in Tanzania. My wife and I had the opportunity of spending some weeks in Tanzania in 3 different years among their wonderful, welcoming people. This poem is called Waterhole. I wake in the sudden blaze of an African morning, refresh myself in a coolish shower, and relish the scent of my breakfast coffee. Elsewhere, a mother has cooked ugali, which her family devour, licking their fingers. She cleans out the dish with a dry cloth. The younger women, each swinging a can, set out now on their needful trek to where they hope to find water today. We board our Land Rover for the roughest of rides, warm air and red dust through the window, our bottles of water shaken and seething. As the sun burns its way up the blue of the sky, we get out, then walk on a stony track the last torrid mile to reach Kiviruma. In a green-brown dip between slopes of the hills, we see the women, one bending low at a grave dug out where a stream has died. Lean and graceful, they are gathered around to see each plastic jerrycan filled with foul, muddy water, bunged with a maize cob. They smile at us, and then so smoothly, each raises 5 gallons with ease to her head, ready to start on the long walk home. When you've been out traveling in Tanzania, places like that, you need a bit of refreshment. And the Tanzanians are very hospitable people. Refreshment. A scent of onion sets my nose a quiver as gathering guests sit down to share a meal. Heat worn, with greasy hands and earth-stained arms, and red road dust on stagnant rills of sweat. A girl brings in a plastic jug, its water carried carefully from the valley bottom, half a mile away. Her sister follows, with bowl, strong-smelling soap, and clean white towel. The first girl kneels beside the nearest guest. She pours on soapy hands outstretched, a steady, cooling stream of water which catches light reflected through the blazing sunlit doorway, then spatters in the bowl her sister holds. The towel is offered, eyes meet with a smile. Thanks are murmured with the towel's return. The girls step gently to the second guest. When they have circled round the room, jug light and basin heavy, guests and hosts united by this ritual, it's time to eat. While warm goat stew is ladled on the plates and bread and soda bottles handed round, the girls slip out with jug and soap and towel to tip the water on the patch of onions that will flavour future hospitality. We can't leave Africa without something about its music. And this poem is called African Drum. I was very fortunate to have a gift of a drum on my travels there. African drum. The drum's sounds, its fingertip beat will awaken the dance. The touch of a palm on taut goat hide varies the rhythm that now resounds around its mahogany barrel and challenges dancers to whistle and clap, to hold hands above heads as they move, with sinewy grace, first facing each other, then backing away, bending their knees and thrusting their arms. No rest for the drummer who increases the tempo, no sudden rush, but a steady measure, quickening of beat and heightening of volume. He reacts to the dancers, they're responding to him, and the drum at the edge of the dance is at the heart of the action, which would die without its beat. And within the drum, to temper its sound, its maker has placed an object, a rattle. For he knows it's not just the skill of the drummer, but the voice of the drum that speaks to the spirit. And no one else knows what he has put in it. After that, we're back in Britain for music again. In the concert hall, remember those? I find that watching what happens in the concert is as absorbing as listening to the music. This one isn't in the book. It's called Scene at a Concert, and you can spell the scene whichever way you like. The concert hall is vast. Its muted space aches to be filled with sound. All eyes are fixed on the conductor. His baton now is raised, soon to unleash the music, to be found in printed symbols open in his score, but important more, much more, held ready for our delight, within the soul, heart, nerves and fingers of each musician there. Bows are raised to strings, lips are pursed to reeds, trombones and horns at rest await their entries, 32 bars silence before their moment comes. The timpanist rubs the skin, his ear close, tweaks a screw. The audience keeps watch, their eyes harpoon a cough. They shift and are silent, and on the rostrum the conductor is ready, the rhythm in his mind almost on his lips as his hand makes the first movement. As the music begins, the swift violins sing a sweet melody, while counterpoint harmony springs from their fellows, the violas and cellos, and vast double basses grunt out their graces. The merry bassoon now picks up the tune and tosses a solo to the girl with the oboe. Her pucker and frown as she forces air down between the stiff reeds shows she constantly heeds the percussionist's beat. He's just moved on swift feet from his xylophone stand, 2 sticks in each hand, to where his gong lay, behind the corangle, whose bulging-eyed harps now set off the harps in a cascade of sound, which sparkles around and conspires to make the trumpets awake. The sliding trombones with their blaring and moans give way to the horns. Then the clarinet mourns. The strings all respond. Are we led to despond? No. Hope finds a route through the gentlest flute to encourage the others through all these bothers, to blow away cares with more joyful airs. Now comes the test. Can everyone rest in a 1-bar silence? It's tense. No bow scrapes the strings. No triangle tings. Then the orchestra surges and every sound merges to reach a crescendo. Is this the end? Oh, would it were done, but the composer goes on. Loud chords are repeated. The audience treated to a wave-lash of sound. All senses are drowned in the climax. Stupendous. The applause is tremendous. I like poems to have a strong rhythm. And the next one, while a bit fanciful, deals with Earth's partner, the moon, which produces rhythms on Earth. It's called Moonshine. The oceans dance to the sway of the moon, which gently traverses the landscape of night, a photo flood of monochrome light. How better to see the owl you've heard hooting than as black silhouette against moon's icy white. But low above sea, the hanging moon calls you to walk on water beaten silver paved, and follow its path that is rippled and waved from the tide-washed beach of glistening stones to a horizon of promise some dream has engraved on your wistful soul. It's the moon that sets times and rhythms of life and the wash of the tides, but sometimes we find its disk not in sight. It rose in the day, but it is not there tonight, and cats cannot prowl in its magical light. The psalmist promised no moonstrike by night, but the owl and the pussycat danced wing in paw by the glow of the moon on the edge of the shore, moonstruck in love. Who can say they weren't right to spoon and galumph in its glorious light? I gain a lot of inspiration for what happens in my garden. I'm very fortunate to be able to sit in my study where I am now and look out not only at the garden, but beyond that, to the fields and the crops growing, and watch the birds and other animals that are there. And in this case, it's house martins that attract my attention. and it's called Low-Level Exercise. House martins are flashing and flitting round the house, window light flickering with the feathers of their wings, while on the wheat field dark-coated squadrons quarter the bronze-cropped ground, fiery and fast, a few level feet above the ripening grain. Winding my mind back 65 years, when, an air cadet at RAF Silestone, I was taken by the station commander in a two-seater trainer to experience, bum on parachute and belted in, the thrill, safe in his hands, of low levels flying. His malicious delight was to skim the corn, hopping over hedges to ruffle the hair and the temper of a farmer on his tractor, then whipping to port in a blood-draining G-force climb, demonstrating his school-learnt skills and aeronautical prowess. All of which the martins I'm watching now enjoy and exploit, not through expensive engineering and training, but as a gift of their nature. And my final poem is also about engineering. Don't know whether any of you have been to Falkirk and seen not just the kelpies there, there's great bottles of horses, but the Falkirk Wheel, which connects two canals, one from Edinburgh and one from Glasgow, which come at different levels, and the wheel is a way of enabling boats to traverse from one to the other. I hope the poem explains how it works and gives a picture of it. Thoughts flying from the Falkirk Wheel. Against a background of cool grey sky, we see a boat gliding across a bridge, a concrete aqueduct which ends abruptly in mid-air. The long, low, many-windowed craft slows and stops just meters from the end. That section of canal now separates to become a gondola hung from massive concrete arms, like double-headed Celtic axes wielded by some god of war. These blades revolve in perfect concert, lowering the boat in a gentle arc, slicing into the water of a dock below, while from behind, another gondola, also filled with water and bearing a boat, rises to take its place. It's like a Ferris wheel without a rim, exchanging in perfect balance Edinburgh boats from the Union Canal to the Forth and Clyde, which leads to Glasgow. In my bath one night, I pondered, what if the upward boat outweighs the other? For a little while I wondered. Then I nearly cried out aloud, Eureka! A boat displaces its own weight in water, so the gondolas always weigh the same, and power to turn the wheel is minimal. Beauty in simplicity, born of ingenuity, engineering in complicity with overcoming gravity while saving electricity, is the genius of this wheel. Bridges are designed to span differences in distance, while this wheel works to span a difference in height. Who might be thinking up such neat solutions to span those differences that split the world apart? The Falkirk Wheel involves just half a revolution. The boat from atop emerges down below, while the one from the bottom comes out on top. Thank you very much for listening. If anyone has any comments,
Thank you, Peter.
Here we've got a few minutes.
You all unmute and give Peter his round of applause.
Yes, yes.
Definitely.
You're going to find that a very different style of poetry, what we're going to get from Elizabeth, I would suspect.
I suspect so, but that's the idea, isn't it?
It is indeed. It is indeed the contrast. I must admit, you know very well that I like poems with form. And in fact, a few years ago, Peter himself wrote an opera that's never been performed, in which Peter provided me with something like 31 poems, each in a different form.
Wow.
Set to music. Didn't try to make my life easy at all. So has anybody got any comments they want to?
I would like to. I've had it in mind to write something about the Falkirk Wheel myself, but I think I can't match yours at all. It's an amazing thing to see and to go on, because I had a little ride on it. Just wonderful, and it's quite a big difference in height between the two canals.
Yes, it was full height of the wheel, which is what, 30 meters or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes. Hope you feel that the poem represented something about it.
I never thought of your last few lines. Applying the theory to other things, other aspects of our world.
Yes.
It's quite deep too. Really, thank you for that.
We write poetry for, isn't it?
Anyone else?
Just to say, I really enjoyed your poems about Tanzania, because I visit Sudan a lot, but I've never actually been to Tanzania. But it was nice to hear those.
Yes, I agree with that. I really enjoyed it all. I don't know if I'm unmuted. Unmute.
No, you're okay. We can hear you. Now you're on mute, Marianne.
Oh, sugar. I really enjoyed your reading. Really diverse and thoughtful, and respect for nature and all that. I really loved it. Thank you.
Good. Well,
so can I ask a question?
Yes.
Which is about your writing. I mean, all of them are really lovely to listen to. They sound very carefully constructed, and that's my question really, is that the rhythms that you use kind of are a mirror of the words that the visual. So when you're talking about the drum, the rhythm that you introduce is very drum-like, and when you're talking about the beauty of the engineering, there's something, it's very embedded. It's not at all obvious, but I didn't know whether it was conscious, which is about how your poetry comes to you. Do you have to work really hard at it, or does it just flow?
No, it doesn't just come. I usually have to start with some idea of what I want to write and where it might go. And it often starts more like prose. It depends. If there's a particular form, if I want to write sonnet, then obviously I have in mind, or as in that Villanelle, the second one about flies, you've got to have a scheme for that. Otherwise, it might be getting down in writing what I want to say, and it might not be where the poem ends up anyway. But that's a start. Then I start to thinking about alliteration, internal rhymes or end rhymes, if I want to use those, and sort of gradually build it. Yeah, taking note of rhythm and those other features that you mentioned. And the first time I've really read the drum poem, trying to replicate the beat and the speed of the drum. In the last poem, the bit about all those words ending in ity, beauty and simplicity, and ingenuity, they sort of, those came fairly easily to me after I'd got that far through the poem. And as I saw them starting to appear, I sort of did my best to encourage them.
It's sort of very ballet-like dance movement of the wheel, and it's very beautiful.
Good.
I love your kind of healthy respect for nature that you, it's almost tongue in cheek, but you know, nature's always going to get the better of us one way or another.
Yes, like the apple tree and the monkeys. Yes,
Yes, in every way. You know, we have to bow to nature's higher knowledge, really, and determination, whatever happens, you know.
One thing I've found difficult in the lockdown is not sort of getting out to pick up new experiences. Feeling I've probably exhausted my garden and walk around the fields, and to get some new ideas fermenting in my mind. So which the advantage of going to Tanzania, although I've wrote most of those after visits, reflecting on them, and I got quite a number of poems coming from holidays in Greece, but I'm struggling at the moment to try and find new subject matter. So I hope that I'll be able to continue writing poetry.
I've heard other people say that too. A lot of people are having trouble finding writing poems.
Yes, I don't. I shy away from writing too much about the experience of it. When people want to have something to cheer them up, but you know, other people have different views and can bring out very poignant aspects, and that's good. But that's not so much my style.
Anyone else? I mean, we've got plenty of time, actually. We might finish early, which I don't think anyone will worry about. But the plan was that we put a lot of time in the programme so that we could have a chat about things like this, and then have a break, have a comfort break, and then come back to Elizabeth's reading.
Yeah, look forward to that.
So it's coming up to 22. Actually, if we took a 20-minute break, is that too much? Do you want a quick, shorter break than that?
15.
And then that would take us up to about 9 o'clock, sorry, and then we would be in about the sort of time we'd planned. But we could just have a 10-minute break if you want and finish a little early.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
10. Yes, 10. Yeah.
10 minutes, I think, is enough. Yeah. 10 would be fine.
Yeah.
So we'll start again.
What's
The 6, yeah, about 10
Okay.
to.
Yeah.
Okay. Just
Okay.
don't close it off your Zooms or anything. Just stay there.
Thank you, Peter. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you. It was really marvelous. And I have your book, and I enjoyed dipping into it very much.